Today is July 4th. The year is 2025. I can remember when I used to say, I wonder if I'll live long enough to see the years pass by in the 2025. This is my 25th year. I hadn't planned a video for today. I've had a full day. Friend of mine had nothing planned. I had nothing planned. So I said, okay, I'll fix us a picnic lunch and we'll find a park. I didn't want to go up on the roof because it's so hot. See, it's in the 90s, hot on the roof, and there's no shade up there. So Lexington has enough parks that you can actually take your choice. Now, what I was looking for was a park that didn't have a lot of people. I wanted just kind of a quiet situation. There was going to be 4 of us. And so we went to the park this afternoon. We had a nice lunch. I did the potato salad and the baked beans, and I had watermelon, and what else did I have? Oh, several other things. Ham and 1 or 2 pieces of chicken. Just a little of this and a little of that, and plenty of Dr. Pepper and plenty of ice water. I was looking for a fatter thermos than this, so I could either put iced tea in it or I could have it filled with ice water. I had some short ones that were short and fat. Well, in those, I could put things like my baked beans that stay hot. One of the ladies was having problems with no teeth, and I said, gotta have something that she doesn't have to chew. You know, celery is not easy to chew. Some of your vegetables, salad type things, are not easy to chew when you don't have your teeth. Those of you who wear false teeth know what I'm talking about. So I said, okay, I love cooked carrots. You got to sweeten them, though. You got to have enough sugar in them to make them good if you want your kid to learn to eat carrots. So that's what I did. And I thought, we grew up eating peas 2 or 3 nights a week for supper. I never fix peas anymore, so I cooked my carrots, and when they were finished, I took a small can of peas, dumped in with the carrots, and that would be a vegetable that the lady with her teeth problem would be able to eat. So I had thermoses about this tall. Well, let's go from the top, like this. About that big, and they were fatter than this. And I was able to fill those with the hot thing, with my baked beans and with the peas and carrots, and I had other things too. Watermelon. Oh, the watermelon was really good. And so by putting them in those thermoses, they stayed hot. And I was pleased with that, to know that the vegetables would stay hot, because nobody likes to eat cold vegetables when they're supposed to be hot. Nobody wants to eat cold baked beans, so they didn't have to today. And I don't know what the temperature is where you live, but it was somewhere in the early 90s, I think, today. Now, I don't get as hot as some people. The humidity and all doesn't affect me because I don't get too active. So we said, okay, which park are we going to go to? Now, they had the downtown parade at noon, 12 o'clock noon. Well, I wasn't interested in that. So they picked me up and we said, okay, we don't know which park we're going to. We'll just start with the one closest to me. The one closest to me is about a quarter of a mile away. Nice little park. They have tennis, they have the big swimming pool, they have a nice gazebo, and that's what I was planning I hoped that nobody would be using the gazebo because in a very nice shady spot, and we could take our own folding chairs. I had tablecloth and what have you, and we could sit in the shade in the gazebo. When we got there, there were a lot of cars, and I said, park number 1, I'm not sure if this is going to work out. But what we discovered was the people were there for the swimming pool. So the swimming pool was just several yards away from where we were. They wouldn't interfere with us. We wouldn't interfere with them. And there were several empty picnic tables. I couldn't believe that we hadn't gone a quarter of a mile and we decided to stay right there in the park in my own neighborhood. It was so pretty and so shady, and when the sun would go behind a cloud, I could feel a slight breeze, which was nice. So we had our picnic lunch, and we sat and talked a little while. They brought me back home, and I put things away. That's it for 4th of July. So I checked some of my messages. And what else did I took a nap. A 2-hour nap. But you see, I deserved it because I got up at 6 o'clock this morning and I didn't get to sleep until 3 in the morning. I usually go to sleep at the count of 10. I'm asleep. But last night it wasn't going to happen. I went to bed at 12, and at 2 o'clock I was looking at the clock, and I thought, why can't I go to sleep? I've got to go to sleep so I can get up early. Well, I think it was at least 2 o'clock, after 2 o'clock when I fell asleep. But I got up at 6. That's the story leading up to the story. I just had my supper a couple hours ago, and it's got to be about 9 o'clock, and I thought, well, they must not be having fireworks tonight. Haven't seen a single one because I can sit on my couch and look straight out, and I can see the fireworks without getting up. And all of a sudden I looked up. It was about 9:45, and I saw the bright reds and greens and blues. Ooh, the fireworks are looking good. I really ought to go up on the roof for a few minutes because, you know, I've lived here 25 years, and every 4th of July for 25 years, I have gone up on the roof where they had the table and chairs, and everybody gathers around. The people that live here, and a lot of friends that don't live here come so they can see the fireworks. Because you see, you can stand up there, got high wrought iron fence around the rooftop, and you can see the skyline of Lexington. And any direction you look, you see the sparkles, stars, and here it comes drifting down like leaves on a tree, no matter which direction you looked. And I thought, not everybody that can have something like that every year. But it was so dark on the roof, I couldn't tell who was who. There were no candle lights or anything. You don't want the lights when you're watching fireworks. You want to see the fireworks, not your own candles. My mouth is so dry right now, you're going to have to pardon me. That is so good. So, where was I? Okay, I opened the door, and I'm telling you, I could not believe my eyes. That rooftop was covered with people, and I couldn't tell you who a single one of them was. It was so dark. And I thought, what am I going to do? Most of the chairs were already taken, and I was just going to stand over to one side and stay about 10 minutes and then come back to my apartment. Well, one or two people were leaving, and they would speak to me, and I think, I don't know these people. I've never seen these people before. Well, I think they were guests of people who lived here. But you didn't know till you were right up in their faces what they even looked like. It was so dark. So I spotted a chair in the middle of the floor, and I really needed something to hold on to because I don't trust my balance. So I walked over and put my hand on the back of that chair, and then I pulled it back a little bit, and there was a couple sitting there. Had no clue who they were. And I learned that they had just recently moved here. So they're living on the floor right above me. So I talked to them a few minutes. And of course, I told them about my YouTube channel. And so she clicked into it, and she opened up, found to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's awfully nice when people are so cooperative and interested. They're interested in what you do. And I didn't have to use my power of persuasion to say, would you subscribe to my YouTube channel? They were more than glad to. So they were a very nice couple. And I told them, I said, I have lived here 25 years. This is my 25th time to see the fireworks on the 4th of July on this rooftop. Now, I don't know if that means anything to anybody, but think about it. 25 years in a row, you've watched the fireworks from the same spot. And it is something when you can stand there and look to your left, look to your right, straight ahead, turn around, and just make a circular move with your head all the way around. And along the skyline are fireworks, a big round balloon shape with all the colors, especially those that are glistening, silvery looking. It's nice. It's really nice. So I said to the couple, I said, you know, I was up here 25 years ago, and you all know, no matter where you live, how hot it has been the last 2 or 3 weeks. Really hot. It was hot today, but it was so nice. I could feel a bit of a breeze while I was sitting in that chair, and I said, I was here my first time wearing a sweater, and my daughter and her husband were here, and we had blankets over us. We were in the lounge chairs, and we were covered up with blankets. It was that cold on the 4th of July. Look at the difference then and now. Now you're doing this, burning up. But it was quite nice on the roof tonight, and the people were so friendly. You couldn't see their faces. I said, you have to tell me your name because I can't see who you are. And they agreed. So I spent about 15 minutes. That's enough for me just to show that I had observed the night lights on the 4th of July. I don't know what this will mean 50 years from now to other people. Will they even have fireworks then? Will things be different? Will there be a rooftop for all of the residents to come to? And these residents that are here now won't be here anymore. They'll be long gone. So, I remember when I lived in Tennessee, one of my grandsons were like 4 and 6 years old. They had come to visit 4th of July, and we were going to watch the fireworks from the river. You go down to the river, which is close to the big bridge that takes you from Clinton, Tennessee, takes you across the river to Knoxville, Tennessee. The nice thing about, they had bleachers, and of course everybody brought their chairs and their blankets and whatever, their food with them to celebrate on the riverbank. But the nice thing about that was when the fireworks went off right across the river, the reflection on the river is what was so beautiful. All that sparkling in the sky, and you could look out, and it was also reflected down the river. So pretty. Here was a 4-year-old looking around and saying, I want to go home. Doesn't that amaze you when you think about when you were a child and to see fireworks? Sometimes the only time you saw them would be at a football game where they'd do a few fireworks in the middle of the stadium. And it was so exciting to watch the fireworks. You'd drive several miles to see that. But here was a 4-year-old saying, I want to go home. You see, things have gotten so big, so fantastic, so different, that even fireworks are not exciting to a child anymore. We were so excited to just have sparklers. They could burn your fingers. And we had cat pistols. Did you ever have a cat pistol? Well, I'd say you don't have one now because you don't buy toy guns for children these days. I remember one year my son came, two little boys, 4 and 6 years old. Now, my house faced the railroad tracks. This was my house, the road, and the railroad tracks. Well, the boys could get out in the front yard and they could gather up the gravels in the driveway and they could throw the rocks, see how far across the railroad track they could throw the rocks. There was no harm, nothing to be in the way. It was just the railroad track, that was it. They had brought their toy guns. You remember when you played Cowboy and Indian? You had a little pistol. You know, those with a little long revolver. It wasn't a revolver. It was a cowboy gun. And you had your rifles. Little wooden rifles. My nephew had one that'd been hand carved. Now they're in my front yard. And they didn't have to worry about cars on the street because the only cars that came back and forth on my street were the neighbors who lived there. So you didn't see them coming and going all day long. I'm sorry, but my throat, it's hard for me to talk. So anyway, the boys were out there with their rifles, their wooden rifles, about 2.5 feet long. And all of a sudden I see a police car slowly crossing the railroad tracks and turning up on my street. And it was just poking along, and I said, don't tell me that a neighbor has called the police because 2 little boys are out in my front yard shooting their guns. I don't remember if there was any sound unless the kids were yelling, pop, pop. So I headed toward the street. I knew exactly where that police car was going. It was going to my house. And he stopped the car and says, I said, surely you're not here because my grandchildren have their rifles. He said, well, ma'am, when we get calls like that, we have to come and check them out. And he said, just be careful with them and make sure they're not out in the street where they can get hurt. But he was very nice about it because he saw immediately a neighbor has called the police on my grandchildren playing Cowboy and Indian. I've got pictures of my 2 kids when they were about 5 and 8 years old. And one has on the Indian costume with a thingamajig on his head. And the other one's got her guns and holsters around her waist. And her cowboy hat on. They're playing Cowboy and Indian. But that was 60-some years ago. You see how things have changed. what was playtime and fun time then now is investigated by the police department today. Okay, I'm back from the roof. I talked to the couple. They're fairly new. They just moved in a few months ago, right up above me. And she checked her iPhone and checked my YouTube channel, so I may have another subscriber. She's very nice. And I said, now give me your first names, and whenever you send me a message, just put your name. Just say your name, and I'll know who you are. So that's my story tonight. I don't see any more fireworks through my window, and the people were beginning to leave while I was up there. And from in the dark, I couldn't tell one face from another, except one lady walked over and spoke to me, and I did recognize her as my neighbor. Lives on the floor just below me. So I hope you have had a nice 4th of July. Hope you had some good food. That's the main thing. You gotta have the picnic. You've got to have the hot dogs and the hamburgers. Well, I didn't have hot dogs and hamburgers. I had some ham, and I had 2 or 3 pieces. They were nice pieces of fried chicken. And that's all I needed, because I knew 1 or 2 of us wasn't going to be eating it anyway. So much for the 4th of July story. We'll wait and see. Maybe next year I'll be sitting right here again describing the fireworks. And they don't change much from one year to the next. In fact, I don't recall anything being different through the years. Same kind of fireworks, but it is nice. It's pretty. And I stood there a minute, and I went from one end to the other, looking all the way around the skyline. You don't stop and think about that skyline out there. You can see so far, and then there's nothing. There's nothing. It's kind of like you drew a circle, and everything was inside that circle. Beyond that line, there was nothing. And that's how it was tonight, except there were fireworks. So that's all I'm going to tell you tonight. That's more than enough. And here it is, Friday, ready for the weekend. I'd say there's probably going to be a whole lot of 4th of July sales in the stores. But there's nothing I need. I'm going to be eating leftovers from my picnic lunch today for the next 2 days, which suits me fine. That way all I have to do is stick it in the microwave, heat it up, and eat it. That's the kind of meal I like. Well, I don't know of anything funny to tell. I just know that I'm glad we don't have the cat pistol today. Did you have a cat pistol when you were little? I can even remember it like it was last week. The pain in my finger when that cat pistol, when you know what they were like. They had little rolls of caps, and you put in that little gun, and when you pull the trigger, it popped. Sounded like a gun going off. Not a loud gun, but a little gun. And I can remember when it popped that cap and that cap burnt your finger. Do you remember that? It hurt. Do they still make cap pistols? I'd say they probably don't, because if a kid was out in the yard with his cap pistol, you might see a police car coming along checking it out. That's how life has changed. So I'm going to finish my Dr. Pepper. I was watching a good old scary murder mystery. Yeah, that's my style, murder mysteries. Yeah, knock 'em dead. So, folks, another year passed. Next, it'll be Labor Day. I don't know if we celebrate on Labor Day or not, but maybe there'll be some good sales in town. And I'm going to let you go. And I hope to hear from you. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. It just takes one little click of the finger. You know, that little forefinger can do an awful lot. My forefinger right now feels like it's got a blister on it. I don't use those pencils and things to work my iPad. I use my forefinger like that. And when I get a lot of messages, I'm using that forefinger a lot. And it feels like it's got a blister on it. Can't see it, but it kind of feels numb. That's where I've been going. You know, it's like that. Always just doing that. Just hitting that little button. I don't have to describe that to you. You know what I'm talking about. So, happy 4th of July. Send me a message. Tell me something funny. See if we can come up with something funny. I'm going to try to come up with some funny stories, because I love funny stories. And I read one today on Facebook that was hilarious. I want to go back and see if I can find it again, because, well, I can't describe it to you. The man was reading, he was reading, and the woman was laughing. It was so funny. And laughter can make you feel so good. So, I have another drink of my Dr. Pepper. And it won't be long till it's my bedtime. And we'll be on with another day's work tomorrow. And I hope it's not quite as hot as it was today. But on the roof tonight, it was very pleasant. Just a very light breeze. And it felt good. It's been a good day. And I hope it's been a good day for you too. Good night.